Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is the 8th of December, 2020, and it is the Recovery from Relapse meeting. And I would like to introduce our speaker, Jeff M. Take it away, Jeff.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jeff. I'm a compulsive overeater, 100-pounder, and also recoverer from relapse. I said good morning. I should say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because the sun never sets on the British Empire, right? So anyway, it's very nice to be here. I will thank you very much for asking me, even if I am a stand-in. I will attempt to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what I am like now. And I've got two of those stories because I did have a relapse. But first, I'll start with, I think I'm going to share my screen and show you some pictures briefly. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Can you all see those pictures? Yes? Somebody nod. Yes, you can see them. Okay, so as you can see here, I was a chubby child, and this is there's two people here. One is me. You can see the chubby one, and one is my brother. And so in my life, I've seen that not that it's not completely a genetic issue. Because, or maybe it is, but but my point being that my brother and I both shared the same gene pool, yet he does not have these issues. As you can see, there I am again as a chubby child, and then there's my first diet right there. So I got down to what I would consider to be a normal weight. And if you look closely, you can see the belt almost goes all the way around me twice. The pants are very large, and that didn't last too long because now we're back in high school. And someone emailed me these pictures, and they said, "Oh, isn't that cute? You look so, so long ago." And I looked at the picture, particularly the one on the left, and I look in my eyes and I see the pain. And I see the pain. And that's really what it was like. I couldn't stop from eating. I couldn't stop from starting. Once I started, I couldn't control myself. I got made fun of. I'm old enough to have avoided political correctness as a child. And everybody picked on you. Every single person picked on me, whether it was an adult, a child, everybody did that. I carried that weight through college, although slightly less pain in the eyes, but that might have been about what I was smoking at the time. Then right after college, I lost about 100 pounds and thought that I was cured. Sadly, this is now moving into my adulthood, gained all the weight plus back. I found Overeaters Anonymous in 1987 or 88. And I didn't really want to. I was just looking for a diet. Uh, and, uh, uh, and I came in and I really didn't work the program as I learned is necessary to be worked. I worked the rooms, to be quite honest with you. I enjoyed the social aspect of it. I enjoyed, it was really for me at that time, diet with group support, because I never really figured out the spiritual aspect. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'll continue through these pictures real quickly. This is me in my late 30s and then early 40s. As you can see, I had, a few pounds, and then here's another couple of pictures that sort of underscore for me how bad the disease got. My high weight was, and I'll stop sharing now and get back to my high weight in life was just before I came into the program about 338 pounds, 335, 340, because when you get to that point in the scale, it's not exactly the most accurate measurement in the world. And really pretty miserable. I was at the last house on the block, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So was a fat kid, fat teenager, a lot of pressure. I grew up in New York, which, people are not shy about telling you what they think. And most people didn't think much of me from what they told me. I sort of got through it, and I got through it, but in a couple of different ways. One of which is I sort of developed this hyper large personality, and this, people tell me I'm funny. And so I would make the jokes, take the first joke about me, make jokes about other people, make fun of other people, anything I could do to deflect attention from me, because when I got attention, it was rarely positive. So as you saw in the pictures, I went to college. I'll just say it this way. I went to college during a sexual revolution, and I was revolting. And people did not want to have those type of interactions with me, and so had somewhat of retarded, growth period at that point. Came to California, lost 100 pounds, moved to California. I worked for many years in the television business, got a job in the TV business, and life was on, and it was great. And I kept the weight off for about 5 years, and then put on about 100 pounds in 6 months after I tore up my knee. And the
You have
doctors,
about 15 minutes, Jeff.
thank you. The doctor said, take these pills, these pain pills with milk. I heard him say, take these pain pills with 2 pints of ice cream. And so I did that, and then gained a bunch of weight, found Overeaters Anonymous. And the thing and I was in for a little over a year. And the thing that I really didn't get is that there's only, and this is my opinion, and you'll forgive me if you don't agree, but there's only one way to work this program, and that is to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him or her or it. And I didn't really get it at that point because, who needed God? I had, I was making money. I was, popular in OA, which is sort of like being the president of the AV club, but I was popular in OA, and everything was great, and I was dating and all this other good stuff that I had hoped to have, when I was 16, I had now when I was in my late 20s, and the world was good. And then I met a girl outside of program, and she paid attention to me, a pretty girl who paid attention to me. That was something new in my world. I was up to graduate. And as my good friend Harlan, who I'm sure you all know, likes to say, the graduation song in OA is "Welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order, please?" And so I left, and I was off and running, and I gained in the next few years 135 pounds. And I knew you were here, but I didn't want to come and see you. For 21 years, I knew you were here, and I was in pain, and I still didn't want to come see you. And part of the reason is that one time I came and visited a meeting. I moved to Santa Monica, and I went to a meeting in Santa Monica, and the same room that I found a lot of recovery in later on. I'm sitting in this room, and somebody shares, a woman shares, and she says she was in it was around the holiday time, and she said that she was in a mall parking lot and couldn't find a space. So she stopped the car, got down on her knees, asked God for a parking space. And lo and behold, she found one. And I literally got up and walked out of the room, because at that point, my feeling was God's got better things to do than find me a parking space. I mean, this can't be what this program is about, and maybe it is, but at that moment, it didn't seem like it. So I got up, left the room, and, didn't come back for many years. I came back because I got to 338 pounds. I made some bad business decisions, and I lost a lot of money. I was not getting along with anybody. I had, wife and kids, and was not getting along with them. My kids couldn't trust me because I would eat their food. I was really in my disease, and I was contemplating getting the gastric bypass surgery. And I went through the informational seminars that they give you, and they said, this is how much food you can eat. They showed you that one. I thought to myself, I will not be sane if I saw the food that I can eat. And so I went to see the doctor, and we had a very nice chat. And at the end of it, he said, look, one last thing, you'll see my shrink. She'll tell me you're fine, and then we'll do the surgery. And I said, well, if I see a shrink, maybe I should see somebody who's not a rubber stamp shrink for him. Maybe I should see someone to tell me if I'm okay. And so I sought out somebody I knew from program the first time, who I also knew as a therapist. And I called him up and I said, hey, can you see me? And he said, no. And I said, what do you mean, no? He said, well, you're my friend. I said, friend, I've seen you 3 times in 20 years. You're like a bad penny that keeps turning up. But I could really use your help. He said, how about 2:00 on Wednesday? We'll talk. We'll meet for coffee and talk. Not knowing that he was planning to Eskimo me back in. And he couldn't do that if he took my money as a therapist. I imagine. I don't know all the rules around therapists, but I don't think that they can directly order you back into the program. And so, anyway, I met with him. He said, look, come back to the program. You're going to need it one way or the other, and you might as well do it before you have the surgery. because then, you're not going to be, and these are his words, mutilating your body, and maybe you'll get it. If you don't get it, he'll be there in 3 months or 6 months. So I came back in the July 5th, 2009. Now, July 5th, for those of you who aren't American, July 5th does have a somewhat of a resolution-based, sort of feeling, because it's the day after July 4th, and we have big parties here on July 4th to celebrate our independence from you guys in Britain. And so I did it. I was going to come in the day after. July 4th that year was a Saturday. I came in on a Sunday, and I walked into the Beverly Hills Serenity Sunday meeting, which is a meeting I knew from before. And here's the difference between the first time and the second time.
10 more minutes, Jeff.
Thank you. When I walked into the Beverly Hills, the park there, I put my hand on the door and I said, God, I have not been a terribly good child, a terribly good son. As a matter of fact, I've ignored you pretty much for most of my life. And I have no standing with you. I have no reason for you to help me. But if you are out there, if you exist, if there is a God, could you please could you please help me to not compulsively eat today? And I walked in the room, and I did share in that meeting. And there were some people there from 20 odd years ago who I had remembered and known, and who remembered me. And that was, nice. It got me back into the start of the program. But the reason that I didn't compulsively eat that day, I am quite certain, is because I asked for help from a power greater than me. Now, before I walked in that door, I wasn't sure there was a power greater than me. My job title at work at the time was showrunner. And so literally that was my title, showrunner. And so, obviously, if I read the book, I realize I'm not running a show, which can be kind of confusing. But I didn't think there was a power greater than me, but I stopped and I said, if you're out there, can you help me? And so every morning now when I wake up, the first thing I say is, God, can you please help me not to compulsively eat today? Because for some reason, somehow, and I'm actually getting emotional over this for some reason, but for some reason, somehow, in whatever number of days 11 and a half years is, right? And whatever number of days that is, every morning I've said that, and no morning, evening, or night have I had to compulsively eat. So I turned to the guy who brought me into the room and I said, hey, you got me into this. Now you're going to get me through this. Will you be my sponsor? And he said yes. And so we started working on the steps. And I went through the steps in the AA 12 and 12, and then in the OA 12 and 12. And I lost 6 pounds a month for 18 months. And that was a new experience, because as a dieter, I would go on a diet. I lose, 15, 20 pounds in a month. 15, and so I was very diligent about working my food plan that I worked out with my sponsor. I got on a scale, it said 6 pounds. I said, what the hell is, and so I was frustrated, but my sponsor said, stay the course, do what you're doing. Stay the course, next month, 6 pounds. It almost got to be a joke. Every month was 6 pounds. It didn't really matter. It didn't really matter what I ate. Didn't really matter if I exercised, 6 pounds. So after about the 4th or 5th month, I said, okay, God, I get the joke. But the joke kept going, 6 pounds a month for 18 months. And I didn't have to look like the guy in that picture, and I didn't have to be like the guy in that picture, because I realized I was not in charge of the universe. I'm not the only thing that matters. And I got this all from working the steps. I got the humility of understanding what the program means, that I'm not the center of the universe, that my job is to be of service. And in fact, my instinct about the parking space God that lady was asking for was borne out, because the book tells me that I'm not to ask for anything for myself, but just the power to understand God's will for me, or the knowledge to understand what God's will for me is the power to carry that out. Not Santa Claus, not can I have a Tesla, because I'd like a Tesla. If anyone has a spare Tesla, I'll give you my address. But but I don't ask God for a Tesla. I ask God what I'm supposed to do today to make the world a better place. So now I'm in abstinence, and all of a sudden I start to gain a little bit of weight back, and I get a little panicked, because my sponsor had been abstinent for so many years, he had forgotten struggles with food. And here I am 2.5, 3 years in, and I'm beginning to struggle with the food again. And I heard a gentleman talk about sober eating. And he said, it's not about what we don't eat. It's not only about what we don't eat. It's also about how we do eat. Because I could be taking the edge off with food 3, 4, 5 times a day and claim to be abstinent, to have abstinence. And so I asked him to help me, and I started working with him and his group. And the difference here, and what has given me the ability, in my opinion, to abstain for this long, is that when an alcoholic gives up alcohol, it's relatively binary, right? You're either drinking alcohol or you're not drinking alcohol. You're taking drugs or you're not taking drugs. You're doing whatever the behavior is or you're not doing that behavior. Right? And with us, it's a little bit more subtle. We've got to eat 3, 4, 5 times a day. And so these sober eating guys that I work with, what the difference is that we create very big, bold, black lines around what is okay and what is not okay when it comes to food. Because food for me isn't nourishment. It is, but it's not only nourishment. It's not a party. It's not something to
5 more minutes, Jeff.
it's not something to just enjoy and, if you'll pardon the indelicacy, get off on, right? That's not what food's about. For me now, food is about nourishment. Food is about 3 times a day. I've got to, eat so that I don't starve to death, so that I can, can support my body. And my food plan is in very big, bold, black lines. And I know when I'm getting close to that line. And thankfully, I haven't had the experience, but I would also know when I went over that line. And so it's not a question of, can I have this? For me, the gray area is really a bad idea. Negotiation with food is a bad idea. You know why? Because I always lose. In all my life, I have never once won a negotiation with food. Even if I think I did, I never once won, because it's living in my head rent free. Should I have it? Shouldn't I have it? Do I have it? Don't I have it? Did I have too much? Did I have too little? Can I have more? I can't be in that space because that's where my disease lives. I've often said that it would be really much more convenient for all of us if our disease spoke to us in a different voice. There used to be a guy named Richie in program, and he talked like this. He had this voice like this. And I would love my disease to have Richie's voice, because I know when he was talking to me, because, hey, that piece of cake's a good idea. I know that that's not me. But that's not how it works. It works that my disease talks to me in my voice. Oh, have one more. It's okay. Oh, don't worry about it today. Oh, you can do better tomorrow. Okay, but I can't do better tomorrow, because if I kept, my father called my mother Forever Tomorrow, because she was always making a resolution, never a decision. Okay, and she never took up on that resolution. And I have the same tomorrowism. I have that same, wanting to procrastinate. Oh, I'll take care of that tomorrow. Oh, it'll be there tomorrow. And the same with the food. Oh, you'll do better tomorrow. I won't have more tomorrows if that's my attitude. Okay, I'm quite certain I'd be dead by now
Three
if I
more
didn't find the
minutes, Jeff.
program. Thank you. If I didn't find the program, yeah, I'm winding up for the big finish. Uh, uh, and so, yeah, so I won't have it tomorrow if I don't keep these bold black lines around my food and not have that gray area and not have that negotiation. So I clean up my food, and that allows me to do the real work of the program, right? I'm powerless over food, and I really understand that I'm powerless over food. I came to believe that there was a power greater than me because I saw that it worked. I saw that believing in God and asking God for help and aligning myself with the reality of the world was actually a better place than living in fantasy land and pretending that that these things didn't exist or that my issues weren't real, and just trying to charge through them. So I turned my will and my life over to God. I cleaned up my side of the street, by doing inventory. And then I look at my defects and try and get rid of them. And sometimes that's hard because some of the defects are fun. But I can't have these defects in my life, because what do? They bring me back to the food, because it's my disease wanting me to come back, circle back, and eat. Oh, you're having a problem, eat over it. Oh, you're having an issue, eat over it. You don't like the politics in the U.S., eat over it. You don't like anything else that comes up. Your kid fails out of college, eat over it. No, that's not. Why? One has nothing to do with the other. I need to understand that my emotional life is here and my food life is here. And those lines have to be parallel. If I let the food do that and get involved in the emotions, then I'm going to be that, that's going to be the path of my life. Now, are things as exciting in abstinence as they were outside of abstinence? No. Sometimes I look at myself and say, gee, you got dull in your old age, Jeff. But you know what? It doesn't really matter because dull is okay, because dull is peaceful. I don't have to be excited every minute of every day. I don't have to get excited by food. I don't have to get joy from food. I can get joy from life and excitement from life. And certainly living in LA, there's plenty of excitement and craziness to keep everybody on their toes. And so I don't need to do that. All I need to do is every day wake up, thank God for the gifts that He's given me, ask God what His will for me is, and give me the power and strength to carry that out. I also ask every morning that I get to do God's work and not His job. Okay, because judgment is God's job. Control is God's job. I just get to do God's work. And if I can do God's work, help another human being, leave the world a little bit better off than I when I woke up that morning. And maybe I can't do that every day, but I can try to do that every day. Eat like a gentleman, report my food, work with my sponsor and work with my sponsees, and try and do service for this program to help another compulsive overeater, because I don't have nearly the amount of pain that I had in my life 12 years ago. I don't have nearly the amount of drama. I don't have
Next
nearly the
time,
amount
Jeff.
of illness. Thank you. I don't have to go to the hospital, with chest pains every 3 months, which I did prior to this. And all of that is because I listened to you and because you guys were here for me when I came back. And I truly am grateful for that. And I will be forever. So thank you very much for everything you've done for me. I appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you so much for your share.